President Trump is back on the campaign trail, attacking his opponents and causing controversy during his rally in Tulsa.
I've been watching the fake news for weeks now, and everything is negative. Don't go, don't come, don't do anything. Today it was like, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like it. You are warriors. Thank you. Joe Biden is not the leader of his party. Joe Biden is a helpless puppet of the radical left. Here's the bad part. When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people. You're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Meanwhile, President Trump is facing a new wave of criticism over a smaller than expected crowd size, even after the media was critical of the president for holding a rally during the pandemic in the first place. Katie, I think one of the things that was happening with the over-promising, under-delivering on the crowd size is that the Trump campaign and supporters, they're looking for a metric to show that they are better than Joe Biden. So the fundraising and the Biden campaign did a little bit better. The poll numbers, they did a little bit better. But we know that the enthusiasm gap between Trump and Biden is quite large, meaning people that want to vote for President Trump are very enthusiastic about doing so. The president will be going to Arizona later this week. I know that's your hometown, home state, I should say. So what do they learn from the Tulsa experience to take with them as they continue out on the campaign trail?
Well, I would say the first thing is to verify the numbers of ticket sales versus who is going to show up. But look, this comparison between the Joe Biden campaign and the Trump campaign and the riff on the Trump campaign that somehow it's a failure because, quote, only 6,000 people showed up to the first rally in months during the end of a pandemic and in the aftermath of these riots and protests, I think is a pretty silly argument to make, especially considering Joe Biden had a town hall last week where people were handpicked. There were 20 people there. And there wasn't any enthusiasm. And so moving forward, I'm sure, as you noted, in the communications sphere, they will not be over-promising who is exactly going to show up because you just don't know who's going to show up. But the history of these rallies is that there are massive overflow crowds. I know people who have waited in line for hours to get in and never did in places like Arizona. So I think that they'll be just fine when it comes to getting these rallies back on the road. And the president, you know, they say that the majority of life is showing up. Well, Trump is showing up and Biden is not.
And Juan, the Trump campaign, the Trump White House explained today that the president was clearly joking when he said that he encouraged the administration to slow down testing to make the numbers look better. The White House reiterated that today. The Biden campaign, though, they decided to take the ball and run with it, and they're going to try to use this, even though the president says he was joking. What do you think about that?
Well, let's just take the president at his word, Dana. If he thinks that's funny, I didn't find it funny. I don't think many people found it funny because the virus is pretty serious, and even in places like Oklahoma and Arizona, where he's going next, we've seen a spike and a continuation of the problem. So, to me, look, I think this was an epic embarrassment for President Trump, who has made a big deal out of crowd sizes, and the idea that his own campaign said it was going to be 1 million plus and built a stage outdoors to have a second speech for the overflow. All of that came to naught. It just didn't happen. So, I mean, you know, at some point you have to take some responsibility. That's not the media. That's not the Democrats. That's the Trump campaign. And the other point I think that you have to say here is that the polls were right. If, you know, picking up on what Katie was saying, if people were worried about the virus, it's not just Democrats or the media or I don't know who, but in a deep red state like Oklahoma, maybe people are worried about the virus. And maybe that's one of the reasons people didn't come out in the numbers that had been forecast. But overall, I'd say on the merits of it, and this gets to what you were talking about, when I heard what the president was saying, it just struck me that, gosh, this is like a summer rerun. I've seen this TV show before. There's not anything new here. The whole division, I mean, he's not running against Hillary Clinton. He's running against Joe Biden. To say Joe Biden is a captive of the radical left is kind of wild. Everybody knows Joe Biden's a centrist, a moderate. So
No,
He
it's
did
not.
make people
He's
laugh
totally
a little
left.
bit. I want to play this. I want to play this sound for you, Dan Bongino, of the president trying to have a little bit of a lighter moment with something that had happened the weekend before. Take a look.
I said, General, I've got myself a problem, General, because I'm wearing leather bottom shoes. It had no handrail. It was like an ice skating rink. I've taken water, and it spills down into your tie. It doesn't look good for a long time. And frankly, the tie is never the same. So I put it up to my lip, and then I say, because I don't want it to, just in case. And they gave me another disease.
Dan, there is something about somebody, a politician, no matter who it is, if they can have a lighter moment and make you laugh, you can hit a home run.
Yeah, it's a skill, and not many politicians are good at that because their laughs are dictated then by focus group tested talking points. Focus groups tell them the stories. Ha, that's funny. Tell that story. People laugh. It's so weird. He just tells these stories. They're in his head. And as a guy who's worn leather-soled shoes in the Secret Service for 12 years on marble floors, it's like an ice skating rink. So I can't even imagine what a metal ramp is like. But just, Juan, if I may come back at you for a minute. An epic embarrassment. I mean, come on. That's a little hyperbolic, to say the least. So we're in the middle of this viral outbreak. The media's got everybody thinking if they're going to show up, they're going to die. But if you show up to a protest, don't worry, you're A-OK. The virus won't do anything to you. He still gets, by Secret Service estimates, by the way, between 10 and 12,000 people. I'll trust them because they do the flow rate at the magnetometer. There may not have been 10 or 12,000 inside, but there were certainly 10 or 12,000 people that showed up and were swept. 12,000 people. So by my estimates here, if Joe Biden had an unbelievable 20 people at his rally, which Katie referenced, which looked more like a pinochle game, maybe Parcheesi, that means President Trump had 600 times more people at his rally than Biden's. So I ask you this, if it's a binary choice, which it is, Juan, Trump, Biden, who do you want to be? You want to be the guy with 12,000 people, or you want to be playing Parcheesi in your living room with your Starbucks with 20 of your neighbors? I'll take the Trump rally any day of the week. They have nothing to apologize for.
We don't have time for Juan to respond, but Jesse, you were there covering this live for us. What do you know about the whole event and going forward as the president heads to Arizona later this week?
Well, I'll respond on Juan's behalf, and I'll just say, Dan, you're right. I admit that I was wrong, and campaign crowd sizes are now a barometer for enthusiasm, and Joe has no juice. Because honestly, Joe would kill for this small Trump crowd size. He'll never get 10,000, never has, never will. I think he cracked 1,000 once at his main launch event, so please. Joe can't fill a library, let alone a stadium like that. And the media's been telling everybody, hey, don't go to this event. It's dangerous and dangerous. So the Trump supporters don't go. Shouldn't they have been patting the Trump supporters on the back for being smart and healthy? No, they're just trying to embarrass the president. It's like Jordan. He scores 20 instead of 30. Okay. You think he lost his game? He'll put up 30 and 40 in the next event. Well, Joe can't even score once. I mean, come on, there's not even a comparison here.
Meanwhile,
Jesse,
Scottie Pippen scored the most points, I think.
You're
I don't need
poor
to try
Jesse.
one.
Jesse's on the defensive. Oh, my gosh.